Hello everybody and welcome to this video. I'm Inxlaura123 and this is my May reading wrap up. So basically I'm going to be telling you about the books that I read in the month of May. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them, what I thought about them, and also I give each book a rating out of 5. So yeah, I've got all my notes here. I hope you get some ideas for books that you would like to read as well. So let's get started with the first book that I read in May, which was called The Girl in the Tower, and it's by Catherine Arden. So this is a sequel to The Bear and the Nightingale, which I absolutely loved, and it's part of the Winter Night trilogy. So I'm not going to give away too much information about this book, so obviously you need to read book 1 first. So I will say that it kind of continues with this kind of magical, mystical adventure, great characters, and it's actually a Russian fairy tale retelling. Really good series, absolutely loving it. Can't wait for book number 3, and I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I read Girl Unknown by Karen Perry, which is a thriller. I do love my thrillers. I kind of turn into Detective Laura when I read thrillers. So, yeah, this book had been sitting on my bookcase for ages. I finally got round to reading it. It was well worth the wait. It was brilliant. So, it's about this professor called David Connolly. One day gets a surprise visit from a student named Zoe, and she tells him that he is her father. So is she genuine? You know, is she telling the truth? Is she lying? He kind of accepts everything she says, and he brings her into his world, you know, his family, his life, much to the annoyance of his wife, who does not like Zoe at all. So it's a really good, exciting thriller. I loved it and I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I read Walk for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. I can't believe it took me so many years to read this book. Like, seriously, but I've finally read it now and I absolutely loved it. It was definitely beautiful in every way. It's touching, emotional. I loved it so much. So it's set in a kind of travelling circus, and I love all circus stuff. So, you know, my favourite book of all time is The Night Circus, so anything with circus, I'm all over it. It's about this main character called Jacob, who I absolutely loved. I thought he was a wonderful character, and I really enjoyed reading about his past, you know, like his memories, and his current, like, here and now as well. Basically his parents die and he joins a travelling circus, and it's set during the time of the Great Depression. So there's lots of love and friendship and circus stuff, and it's just a beautiful, incredible book. So I loved it and I gave it 5 stars. I've also got the DVD to watch as well, but I wanted to read the book before I watched the film. So very, very good. Next up, I read a book by Chloe Benjamin called The Immortalists. Unfortunately, I did not enjoy this book at all. I actually stopped reading it like halfway through. I was like, no, I can't continue this. I'm not enjoying it. So, which was a shame actually, because I was proper hyped up to read this book. I'd heard a lot of good things. I'd heard that it was spiritual and mystical. It was supposed to be really emotional. It had like a Kabbalah connection as well. I'm like, what? No, honestly, I didn't find anything about it spiritual. I didn't see a Kabbalah connection. I don't know, maybe I'm missing out on something, but I just did not like it at all. So there are these 4 siblings, and they sneak out and they go and find this, when they're younger, they find this fortune teller who tells them about their future and the day that they're going to die. And you kind of follow each sibling, but I don't know, I just didn't like it. I didn't really care about the characters, didn't really like them. And look, I'm not a prude by any means, okay, but some of the sex scenes were way too explicit. I was like, woo! It was just too much information for me. I did not like this book at all. I was very, very disappointed, so I only gave it 2 stars. Next up, I read a book by Holly Black called Dull Bones. This was a younger person's book. I'm not going to lie to you. Look, I'm 38, but I read books for all ages. Do you know what I mean? I like what I like. I was recommended this book by Melissa and Barnsley Reed's channel. She's amazing. Check her out. I do get a lot of book ideas from her channel because literally we have like very similar taste with books that we read. So yeah, I watch her videos. I'm like, oh, I'll get that. So yeah, this is called Dull Bones. It was super cute and super creepy. Okay, so it's about these three characters, Zach, Poppy and Alice, and they enjoy playing with dolls and action figures. It's all good until Zach's dad decides Zach is way too old to be playing with dolls, and one day he basically sneaks in and he takes his action figures and throws them away, and Zach is proper heartbroken. I was like, oh, it's so sad. But anyway, so his two little friends, Poppy and Alice, sneak out and meet him and tell him all about this haunted China doll that they've got. And this doll is proper creepy, and it's made from the bones of a murdered girl. And basically the three of them embark on this adventure to put closure to this haunted doll's spirit, you know, which isn't settled, and they need to go and bury it. And it's a really creepy but fun book. I really enjoyed it and gave it 4 stars. Next up, I read a book by Matt Colleen called Orphan Monster Spy. This book was absolutely amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it. So it's about a young Jewish girl who is running for her life, literally, from the Nazis. She's already witnessed her mother get killed, and she runs off. You know, she doesn't know what's going to happen to her, where she's going to go, but she ends up meeting this mysterious man, and he kind of helps her, takes her under his wing. The next thing she knows, she's turned into a spy. She becomes a spy, and he basically sets her up to go undercover in this Hitler Youth Nazi boarding school, which, as you can imagine, as someone Jewish, is the worst place that you want to be. Okay, this book, you know, there were parts of it was very disturbing for me. I am Jewish, and reading some of the stuff that the Nazis were saying and stuff, it was just very... It's very touching, but also the book was exciting, and it was just like the whole kind of spy thing, and it was just really different. I'd not read a book like it, and I really loved it. And yeah, you know, there was parts of it, as I say, which were emotional, but very, very good, very, very well written, brilliant book, 5 stars. Sorry, my voice is a bit rubbish, but I've got really bad hay fever, so my throat's a bit dry and there. Anyway, next up, I read a book called The House with Chicken Legs by Sophie Anderson, and this was a cute little book. If you've seen the film Coco, you need to check out this book. It was so good. I loved Coco as well, by the way. It was brilliant. So this is about a 12-year-old girl called Marinka, whom I loved. So she is so cute, so lovely, but she's also really, really lonely. She lives with her grandmother, and they live in this moving house. Like, the house literally moves with chicken legs. Very weird, but weird is good. So her grandmother is a guardian who guides the dead to the afterlife, and that is going to be Marinka's job too in the future. So basically, Marinka wants to find friends. She just wants to make friends and lead like a normal, you know, girl's life. So she meets this girl. She gets very close to her. I won't kind of spoil what happens, but basically things happen, and the grandmother disappears into a portal, and Marinka is left to, you know, kind of fend for herself, left to her own devices, and goes on adventures, and it's just a very fun, like, really cute book, and I really enjoyed it, actually. So yeah, 4 stars for that one. Next up, I read a thriller by Sarah Pinborough called Cross Her Heart. I absolutely love Sarah Pinborough. I think she's an amazing author. The last book I read from her was called Behind Her Eyes. That's the book that everyone was talking about, the ending, because the ending of that book was super like, what? Didn't expect it at all. Very weird, but very good. So this one was full of twists and turns. Really good thriller. Promises and lies. And it's told from 3 different perspectives, 3 different viewpoints. So you've got the main character called Lisa. Then you've got her daughter called Ava, and Lisa's best friend called Marilyn. So I really enjoyed, like, the first half of the book was kind of getting to know each one and their kind of story and how they're all like intertwined. I thought that was cool. But then, like, halfway through the book, right, it just explodes into this like drama, and like secrets come out, and it was just great. Like, it was such a good thriller, very, very cool, and I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read was by Leslie Walton called The Price Guide to the Occult. So look, this book I really had high hopes for, and I don't know, like, I liked it, like, I enjoyed it, but I think it could have been better. Do you know what I mean? Like, it kind of lacks something. You know when you read a book and you're like, yeah, I really liked it, but there was just some, I don't know, there's just something missing. So this book, witches, curses, over generations there's this curse, and romance, friendship. I don't know, it was all right. It was all right. And I gave it 3.5 stars. The next book I read was by Elizabeth, I hope I say her name properly, Elizabeth Acevedo, or Acevedo, I don't know. And it's called The Poet X. So this book was great. It was wrote in a verse style, and you know, it does take a bit of getting used to, I've got to say, reading books in a kind of verse style. For example, one page would just have like 3 lines on it or something. It is a bit weird at first, but once you get round, like, used to it, I find verse books quite enjoyable. So this is about a young girl from Harlem who, I love the character. She was proper sassy and I loved her, and she discovers slam poetry, and it brings out a side to her that people don't normally get to see. They kind of have her expectations of her, they think they know her, but you know, there's more to her than what they see. I like the poetry in this book. There was some great poetry. I liked her character, I liked her brother, I liked her friends, I liked the whole kind of getting to know her family. This book also dealt with like religion and how her mum and her had difference of opinions when it come to religion. There's also homosexuality in this book, and also, yeah, a real kind of strong feminist vibe. Like, you know, it's really good, and I really enjoyed it. Let your voice and views be heard, be who you are, and be proud. I gave that book 5 stars. I need to have a drink or something. My throat is just proper dry. Hay fever sucks. There we go. Okay, the next book I read, I loved as well, and it was by Nick Stone, and that's Nick, N-I-C, and it's called Dear Martin. So yeah, this had kind of the Hate You Give vibe. So if you like that book, The Hate You Give, I think you'll really like this. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, I know this is probably proper controversial to say, but I've read both books now, and in my opinion, this book was way better. Like, it was way better. I like the characters more, I like the story more. I felt connected to it. I don't know, I just really like this book more, and I think this book deserves more hype. Dear Martin, Nick Stone, amazing. So it's a very gritty story about a character called Justice McAllister. He's a great character, I really liked him. And he's very, very clever. He's like top of his class. He's set for Ivy League. But then he gets arrested and he sees life different and begins to kind of take a stand, you know. He writes a journal to the great Martin Luther King. And it's like he's talking to him, you know, expressing his emotions, opening up and stuff. And he kind of thinks, what would he do in this situation? And then his best friend Manny gets killed. I was super upset about that. I was like, no, because Manny's such a lovely character. And he gets killed, and Justice kind of not only has to deal with the grief, but also the press hate, because they kind of turn on him and paint him in a bad way, and it's just really good. It's a really powerful book, thought-provoking book. Loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. Next book I read was by Isabel Ashdown, called Beautiful Lies. So I got sent a copy of this to review from the actual author, so thank you, the lovely Isabel Ashdown. I've read a few of her books. She's a really good author, a really nice lady as well. I talk to her on Twitter sometimes. So this is a thriller. It's about a character called Martha, who is a TV presenter of a new crime investigations TV show, and she has to do a show about the disappearance of her former childhood best friend. So basically she has to revisit old memories, old friends, and people who she, you know, lost touch with and stuff, and piece together what happened. Also throw into the mix a psychopath woman who kind of like catfishes Martha and pretends to be one of her old school friends, and I don't know, it's just such an exciting thriller. It's very different than I'd read before, and I love the kind of storyline of it, and it was just really good, really exciting, and I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I read a book called The Surface Breaks by Louise O'Neill. Now, this is a retelling of The Little Mermaid, but it's got a more kind of feminist, sassy twist. So, by the way, the cover art on this book was so beautiful, and under the dust jacket there was like mermaid scales and stuff on the hardback. It was just such a beautiful book. So yeah, a young mermaid who dreams of being more than she's expected to be, and also she is on this mission to find her mum, and as I say, a real kind of strong feminist vibe in this book, and yeah, I really loved it. 5 stars. Next up, I read a book by Josh Martin called, I can't say it properly, Ariadanis. Ariadanis. So it's Ariadnis. Ariadanis. Anyway, so yeah, by Josh Martin, and this was actually my TBR selection book. So I have this little jar in my bedroom with the names of all the books that I own, like standalones, not the series. And then once a month, Nathan, my fiance, will pick out a book from the jar, and that is my TBR jar book selection of the month, and I read it. So he picked this one out, and I was so happy he picked it out because it was just great. I loved it. Thing is, though, I thought it was a standalone, but it ended up it's not. It's actually part of a series. So anyway, but I literally love this book, and so it's told from 2 viewpoints. A character's called Ula and Jumia, and it's a fantasy, young adult fantasy. A great world building, by the way, in this book. Like, it's so just great world building. Basically, these two are the chosen ones, and there's magic, and there's these like prophecies that are going to happen, and there's superpowers, friendship, there's steam powered cities. This book is just amazing. Like, it's great. So I loved it. I really, really loved it. I don't want to give too much away about it because you need to check it out for yourself. It's a fantastic kind of fantasy, kind of sci-fi, everything. I just loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. And I've also got book 2 now that I won on eBay. I bid for it and won the bid. So yeah, I've got that to read this coming month as well, to find out like what happens next. After that, I read, which I can actually show you here, these 2 books here. So I read Bookshop Girl by Chloe Coles, and this was kind of like Moxie, if you've read Moxie, like girl power, kind of making a stand for something you believe in, but it was about a bookshop that was closing down. This girl, she's called, this is a funny name, she's called Paige Turner. Anyway, so she works at this bookshop, and she loves books and working at the shop, and the big bosses pay a visit and say that they're going to be closing the store down, and her and the other staff members get together, and they kind of, you know, create this campaign to stop the shop shutting down. It's a really fun little read. If you like Geek Girl and stuff like that, check this out. It's only a little short read, and I really enjoyed it. Cool cover as well. And yeah, also Marie Lu, this is Batman, Nightwalker. This is part of the DC Icons series. I've already read Wonder Woman, which I liked. This one I thought was better than Wonder Woman. I have to say, I really did really enjoy this book. Oh, by the way, I give that book 3 stars out of 5. There we go. But yeah, Batman Nightwalker. So this is set when Bruce Wayne is like 18 years of age, is just kind of starting out, and it's, I don't want to give too much away, but it's so exciting. There's these people called the Nightwalkers, and they want to kind of ruin the city. They're kind of like modern day Robin Hoods, you know, stealing from the rich, giving to the poor. Only they don't kind of give to the poor, and they're not very nice, and they're a bit naughty. And anyway, so he kind of gets into trouble and ends up going into prison, and there he meets this character called Madeline Wallace, and she's like this killer. Everyone's like scared of her. She won't talk to anyone, but she does talk to him, so they build up a kind of friendship. And yeah, it's just so exciting. It's really good. I loved it. And is she good? Is she bad? And it's, yeah, I really liked it. There's also going to be Superman and Catwoman as well. The Catwoman book is written by Sarah J. Maas. That comes out in, I think, August. So, yeah, really enjoying this kind of DC Icons series. So yeah, I would definitely give this book 5 out of 5. I loved it. So good. So if I had to choose a book of the month, it would be very difficult because I did love a lot of them this month. But I would have to say Dear Martin by Nick Stone. It really touched me, that book. It was proper gritty and emotional, and I just loved it. It deserves more hype. That's what I say. So that was I would say, even though it was close, I would say that Dear Martin was my book of the month. Okay, so there we go. They are the books that I read in May. I've got a lot of books I want to read in June. I'm going to do my TBR video tomorrow, and I'll upload it this week as well, so you can see what books that I want to read, you know, in June. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like, please comment, please subscribe, and all the links are down below to my social media as well: Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Okay everybody, thanks for watching. Tell me what books you've read and what you thought of them, what was your book of the month and things like that. I love to know. Let's chat about books. Book chats. Okay everyone, take care. Mwah. Bye.